What's good, YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about a topic that I have discussed occasionally on the channel, which is ruling differences between Edison format and modern format. I've made videos, or generally, I kind of like shit on the Edison rulings a lot. I think in general, it is true that modern rulings are just a lot cleaner, a lot more consistent, a lot more intuitive with the like design of the game and how players generally understand cards to work. However, there are a few rulings that I feel are better in Edison format that I prefer the Edison format version of. So today we're going to be highlighting a couple of those because I think they're kind of neat. So hopefully you enjoy this interesting little discussion video. Number 1, zero attack monsters crashing. Now, this is something that rarely comes up, that's not really that relevant, but for some reason in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's been this way for quite a while, zero attack monsters don't crash. Now in Edison and in I think most retro for I don't know exactly, but in Edison, for sure, zero attack monsters do crash and destroy one another. And this one is just super odd to me because it's just like a weird tacked on thing that like contradicts the fundamental mechanics of the game. Like monsters with the same attack should just crash, but there's this just random exception where if they're at zero, they don't crash, and it's just like, why are you hating on zero attack monsters like this, Konami? Why can't they crash? It's just so like it's just so strange. I don't know. Like this one isn't super relevant to gameplay or anything. It's just kind of weird. Like I don't get it. I mean, I guess like they have zero attack, so they can't kill things, but the other thing has zero attack, so it's just like being calculated against it. So I don't. It's let me know what you think about this one because it always weirds me out that like a zero attack attacks a zero attack and then just nothing happens in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm like, what? What the hell's going on here? That's so weird. So yeah, that's the first one. Number 2, we have here the rivalry goes in rule. I believe it was discovered sometime last year. I don't remember that in Edison format. Rivalry of the Warlords and goes in match will not stop you from tribute summoning a monster with a different type or attribute. So you still can't like synchro, and I assume if there were other summoning mechanics that were out at the time, you wouldn't be able to do them. But you can just like if you have a treeborn frog, you can just tribute it and summon Kai's under rivalry and goes in, and that's perfectly legal in Edison format. Whereas in modern, they're more restrictive in that sense. Now, frankly, if I were the one designing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, I would just have it so that like if rivalry or goes in were up, so long as there was never a period where you had two types or two attributes, you could just do anything you wanted. But in modern, it's basically the opposite of that. Like they just stop everything, and they're super oppressive, obnoxious Floodgate cards, and no one really likes that. But in Edison, the fact that you can tribute over is super relevant. It makes these cards like borderline unplayably crap. Even in the sideboard, they're just so bad because Caius is so prevalent in the format, and it just like says no to this card. Like you can always just summon it, and if you really want, you can just out the Floodgate right then and there. So these cards basically just don't see play in Edison for that reason. I think that's actually pretty healthy for the format because these are cards that everyone basically agrees are super toxic and degenerate in modern, and it's largely because of the way they're ruled, where they just I mean, if you could tribute over in modern, they would probably still be broken because like the main reason they're good is because they stop all of the the summoning mechanics and the special summoning and whatnot, and there aren't as many decks that could like really take advantage of like, oh, I can just tribute summon a guy, So I mean there are decks that could probably, but not that many. So it wouldn't be super relevant, but in Edison it is super relevant, and it makes these oppressive Floodgate cards just really garbage. So I think that's a great addition to Edison format in terms of different rulings. It actually probably helps the format a lot that these cards suck, because retroactively with like optimization they might actually see a good bit of play in like maybe Blackwings or Dragons or whatever, but because they're garbage they don't, so that's great. Oh man, where to get started on this one? They did field spells dirty. Honestly, like the field spell mechanic just might as well not even exist in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. I think it's partially because of rulings, but as a side note, the card design of field spells has just gone off the rails ever since like 2016ish, and like every field spell is just like some in archetype copy of like Fire Formation Tenki or something on crack, and I mean they're just sort of different only in that they broke Terraforming and Ancient Fairy Dragon, so now those cards had to be on the ban list, but I think they errated AFD or something, so it can come back now. But we're getting off track here. So, like, field spells in Modern are basically just like cracked up continuous spells. Like, they're not really field spells. They don't do anything like unique or and the rulings are definitely part of that. So, a big thing that I don't like is that there you can have two active field spells. I felt like that was a cool point of interaction in the older Yu-Gi-Oh that you can just like play against Gravekeepers and out their Necro Valley by dropping a field spell on top of it. And then also like I'm so baffled as to why this change was made too, because like in Modern it honestly matters even less than in Retro that you could just out your opponent's field spell, because like the game is so freaking fast and shit. You just like use your field spell and get whatever value out of it, and then like end your turn. And if they activate their field spell and get rid of your field spell, it's like who even cares at that point? I don't know. They're probably like, if you think about it, Mind Burn would have just been unplayable if you could just activate a field spell over Mine. Just think about that. Think how compelling of a point that is, first of all. And then like another change they made is in like 2014, I think the same time when they made the one active field spell change. Field spells no longer destroy the old field spell they're activated over if you like activate it over your own field spell. So this basically just made Gear Town like garbage and unplayable in every way. That card sucks. It would actually maybe even be like pretty solid if you could just Gear Town over Gear Town. I don't know. I mean, it probably wouldn't matter too much with the pace of the game at this point, but I don't like how they destroyed this card. I'm a big Gear Town enjoyer, and I hate what they did to my boy. So that pisses me off as well. And just in general, I feel like the changes they've made to the field spell mechanic have like rendered it completely irrelevant. Like the only thing that makes them field spells is that they say field spell and that every other cards reference field spells. And I guess they still only have one zone, but that like hardly matters. So yeah, that's my take. I really don't like what they've done to field spells in general. So for ruling number 4, we have this kind of weird one, which is to do with trigger locations. I don't really know how to explain this, so the best way I'm going to illustrate it is through an example. Basically, in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, if I activated Charge with the Light Brigade and milled a Dandelion, and my opponent chained DD Crow, banishing the the Dandelion would not start a new chain because it's no longer in its trigger location at the end of that first chain. And I don't have an objective reason why I don't like this. It's probably just kind of a Yugi Boomer opinion, but this is just like it goes against my intuition of how the game would work, because Dandelion's a mandatory effect, and it did hit the graveyard technically, so I would think it should activate in this case. But in Modern, they sort of switched this up. I think this was pretty recently. This might have been with like the 2020 rule changes or something. And I don't know. It's just super weird, and I'll never get used to it. So that's number 4. All right, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is not really a gameplay ruling necessarily, and it's definitely something people have complained a lot about before in the past, but it's absolutely so miserable that it bears re-mentioning. Time rules in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Are such that when time is called, you complete the phase that you are in, and then whoever has more life wins the game. As opposed to an Edison format where there's like 5 total turns until the player with more life wins the game. Now this is just kind of completely insane that it works this way in Modern. Like, I understand the game is way faster, right? And it'd be one thing if it said like each player gets a turn, or just even to the end of this turn when time is called. But for some reason it's the end of the phase, which is just absolutely freaking obscene and stupid. And of course, in Edison format, having 5 turns, it's like, yeah, time rules, no one likes them, but it's like completely reasonable. I mean, 5 turns is a long time. And at the same time, gameplay is different from Modern, such that 5 turns isn't going to be an eternity either. So, I mean, like I said, no one likes time rules, but the way it's handled in Edison format is a lot more reasonable than the way it's handled in Modern, where it's just end of phase. It's such a joke. I cannot believe that policy hasn't been changed. Everyone just universally despises it and thinks it's ridiculous, and they're absolutely right, because that's just absurd. So this is going to wrap up the video. These are a couple of the things that I think Edison gets right over Modern. Like I said, I think in terms of sort of rulings and whatnot, Modern is usually a bit better overall, just because there's been so many years, so much more time to get everything like centralized and uniform. So it kind of just benefits from that. Whereas back in the day, things were really like weird and clunky and obscure, and it was just like, this judge at this event rules this card this way, and now it works that way for some reason. So in general, things are just a lot better in Modern, but there's a couple things I think Edison does better. So I've highlighted some of those. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Peace out.